I call up Steve and I tell him about these two deals and the funding that's
Okay.
required. I learned that the bank had closed my line of credit with no notice to me whatsoever. And I said, Steve, okay, hold the phone. Why are you telling me my line of credit is closed at the bank? He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my two deals that are going to be over $100,000 in profit between those two deals. So I had a choice. I could go home, put my tail between my legs, and eat Cheetos all day, or I could ask myself a question that changed the trajectory of my business forever. I want to share with you, Erica,
Okay.
you and your audience, this powerful question that I asked myself. I didn't know how powerful it was at the time. And let me tell
Oh,
you,
okay.
this question will help anybody solve any problem they have. I don't care if it's financial, health, relationships, money. Here, it's a very simple question, but very powerful. Here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you with your problem? Who do you know? It's so simple, but so powerful.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Are you ready to think big and act bold? Then you are in the right place. This is Innovative Entrepreneurs, a podcast that will bring you the stories, insights, and tips from some of the most successful and innovative entrepreneurs in the world. I am your host, Erica Bailey, and I am here to help you start, scale, and sustain your own entrepreneurial journey. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Innovative Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Erica Bailey, and today we have an incredible guest, and we have a lot of interesting things we just learned about each other, which is phenomenal. He has made a powerful impact in the world of real estate investing. Joining me today is none other than Jay Conner. He is widely known as the Private Money Authority. I want a little bit of that. With over $8 million raised in private money and an average of 3 property deals closed each month. Wow. Jay brings not only experience, but real practical strategies that are changing the game for investors across the country. Jay isn't just teaching what worked a decade ago. Right? He is in the trenches. He is doing deals. He is mentoring others in today's market. He is also the author of Where to Get the Money Now. I think we all need to read that. And is here to share. He's got some proven methods for funding real estate deals without using your own money, tapping into self-directed IRAs, and unlocking the off-market opportunities. We're also going to talk about in the world of real estate, you are your own boss. So how do you stay motivated? How do you maintain and just keep pushing through? And what has he learned along the way? So this is going to be fun. If you are ready to learn how to make real estate work for you ethically, strategically, and successfully, then this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Hi, Jay. Welcome to the show.
Erica, thank you so much for inviting me along to talk about my most passionate topic, that being private money. But why in the world is that? Well, here's why. Ever since 2009, February 2009 to be exact, I've never missed out on a deal, a real estate deal, because I didn't have the money. Now, I know what it feels like to miss out on a deal because I relied on the local banks and mortgage companies and institutional money from 2003 until 2009. I'm telling you, private money's had more of an impact on our business than any other strategy that we put in place.
This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. what did you do before you got into real estate? Or were you like a Lou Brown, which we're going to get into later, but like he started, like decided, I think it was like 18 or whatever, that that's all he wanted to do, right? What got you into real estate? Because it's not always the easiest market to work in.
That's true. Well, Erica, I was actually raised by my father and mother and my dad, Wallace Connor. He's 91 and a half years old right now, and he makes sure you know about the half. But in fact,
Yeah, go Dad.
he is right slap dab in the middle of building a 350 new home construction build at 91 and
At
a half.
91 and a
Isn't that
half?
crazy? I saw him at lunch today, and he still loves telling people what to do. But nonetheless, when I was growing up, my dad had the largest mobile home retailing company in the nation. So mobile homes, manufactured housing, trailers, wobbly boxes, what they used to be called. But anyway, he was the largest retailer of mobile homes, manufactured housing in the nation. So I grew up being around helping people get affordable housing, right? Well, unfortunately, the financing for that industry for the consumer went away in the early 2000s. So I knew if I ever got out of mobile homes, I wanted to get into single family houses and I wanted to be a flipper. Now, here's why I wanted to be a flipper. It wasn't because of HGTV, because HGTV did not exist in 2003. So my wife, Carol Joy, and I, we've got dear friends. Their names are Craig and Kim. They live in
And hers,
Newbern,
Carol Joy. Did you say Carol Joy?
Carol Joy's my wife. She's from Texas.
I love that. Hi, Carol Joy.
Yep. She is from Texas originally. We live in Eastern North Carolina. But
Okay.
anyway, Craig and Kim, good friends of ours. In 1993, 10 years before I got into single family houses, they wanted to build their new home. Well, they didn't have any money for a down payment or seed money. Well, Kim's daddy lived down in Florida, and he was a full-time real estate investor. And he said, I tell you what, Craig and Kim, I'll come up there to Newbern, North Carolina. I'll find a fixer-upper. I'll pay for it. You all do the sweat equity. Fix it up on the weeknights and the weekends, and we'll sell it, and you can keep the money for your down payment on your new home. In less than 90 days, they pocketed, now this was in 1993. In less than 90 days, they pocketed $30,000. I said, wait a minute. I'm out here trying to make $3,000 on a single wide mobile home. And you all made $30,000 on one little old single family house that you fixed up and sold. So 10 years.
In 90 days.
Yeah. So 10 years before I got into this world, I said, I know what Jay Connor wants to do if I ever get out of mobile homes. Well, the opportunity came along in 2003. And so that's how we started. Now, my first 6 years, Erica, I relied on the local banks to fund my deals, my real estate deals. That's all I knew to do. All I knew to do, Erica, was go to the local bank when I had a single family house deal to do, get on my hands and knees and say, please fund my deal. And, the banker would make me pull up my skirt and show all my assets and pull my credit score and look at my financial statements and do appraisals. And that worked okay the first 6 years. But then everything changed in January 2009. And boy, it hadn't been the same since.
Yeah. Well, we all know kind of what was going on in January 2009. Like that was the whole market collapse, right?
Yes.
So how did everything change? Sorry,
Well,
I'm trying to take notes and I'm not getting what I need here.
Well, Lehman Brothers collapsed in the fall of 2008. So that was, I mean, everything was already falling, was falling through the crack. 2007, 2008, foreclosures were blowing up at record levels like never before. So here we go, Erica. Here's what happened. I was sitting here at my desk, and you know what? It's hard to believe. We actually still have handsets and cords here in North Carolina attached to
That's an actual handset phone?
Yeah, it's actually attached to a handset on my desk. It still works, by the way. 20-year-olds don't know what that is.
I haven't seen one? Okay, sorry. That blew my mind for a second. I guarantee you there's so many people out there who don't even know how to use it.
That's right.
Wow,
That's how it
that's
works.
mad old school. Okay.
So anyway,
Okay.
I'm sitting here at my desk, Erica, January 2009, and I called up my banker. His
Okay.
name was Steve.
Steve.
Steve had funded lots of deals for me from 2003 to 2009. So I called up Steve. January 2009. I got 2 houses under contract to buy. Nothing's new. I've been doing this for 6 years. And I call up Steve and I tell him about these 2 deals and the funding that's
Okay.
required. And I'm telling you, Erica, I mean, like that in a split second, I learned that the bank had closed my line of credit with no notice to me whatsoever. And I said, Steve, okay, hold the phone. Why are you telling me my line of credit is closed at the bank? He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my 2 deals that are going to be over $100,000 in profit between those 2 deals. He says, sorry, Jay, we're not loaning money out. So I hung up the phone and I sat here, Erica, for a moment. And I thought to myself, well, what in the world am I going to do? So I had a choice. I could go home, put my tail between my legs, and eat Cheetos all day, or I could ask myself a question that changed the trajectory of my business forever. I want to share with you, Erica,
Okay.
you and your audience, this powerful question that I asked myself. I didn't know how powerful it was at the time. And let me tell you,
Okay.
this question will help anybody solve any problem they have. I don't care if it's financial, health, relationships, money. I don't care. And by the way, as a side note, these people running around saying every problem's an opportunity. I want to be like the Kool-Aid guy that runs into the brick wall. That's, for goodness sake, I didn't have an opportunity. I had a blankety blank problem, right? I had a problem. So let's face reality. Okay. So here's the question.
Well, here's the question. I'm taking notes. Everybody, do you have your pen? Do you have your piece of paper?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the
Cut the
question
gap
that
and get on the
solves
pad.
every answer or every question in the world. Here we go. Any problem? Go.
And here, it's a very simple question, but very powerful. Here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, who do you know that can help you with your problem? Who do you know? It's so simple, but so powerful. And here's why it was so powerful.
Oh.
I immediately thought of Jeff Blankenship. Now, Jeff Blankenship's a dear friend of mine and Carol Joy. In fact, we just saw Jeff and his wife and his kids this past weekend at a gospel a cappella singing event. And the reason I thought of Jeff, I digress. The reason I thought of Jeff when I said, who can help me with my problem, is because my buddy Jeff at the time, January 2009, he was investing in single family houses in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I said, well,
Okay.
my buddy's investing and doing the same thing I'm doing. Let's call him up and see what's going on. So I called up Jeff and I told him what had happened with me getting cut off at the bank. Jeff says, well, welcome to the club, Jay. I said, well, what club is that?
I don't want to be in this club.
No, he says the
I
club
don't want
of
to be in this
having
club.
the bank shut you down. He says, the bank shut me down last week. I said, well, Jeff, how are you going to fund your real estate deals? And he says, well, have you ever heard of private money? I said, no. He said, you ever heard of private lending? I said, no. He said, have you ever heard of self-directed IRAs and how an individual can take retirement money they have and move it over to a self-directed IRA company, and they can loan money to us from their retirement accounts, and the interest we pay them is tax deferred and tax free. I said, Jeff, I don't have a clue what in the world you're talking about. What's
thank
private?
goodness, because I was
Like, what are you talking
okay.
about? What are you talking about? And
Thank goodness.
he says, well, there's this gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida, by the name of Ron LeGrand.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, who is Ron LeGrand and what is private money? He said, I don't know, but Ron says we can get a lot of it. I said, okay. So Jeff and I went to my first experience of a real estate investing seminar, went to Ron
Okay.
LeGrand's seminar. And the reason I went was to learn about private money and how to get
Okay.
funding for your real estate deals without relying on banks, institutions, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, boy, did I learn about private money. Me and Jeff did. And here's what happened. I came back here home in Morehead City, North Carolina, after attending that event, and I raised over $2 million in less than 90 days. All new funding. And you know what's funny, Erica? I never asked anybody for money. In fact, to this date, I've yet to ask anybody for money. And I have real estate investors ask me all the time, say, Jay, how do you have $8.5 million in private money funding available to you right now, and you never asked anybody for money? Here's the answer. So the first step into getting all the private money you need or want for your deals is to own the real estate between your ears. Now, let me explain what that means. You see, most people think that in order to get money for real estate or borrowing money is that you have to go who's got the money that makes the rules. You know, traditionally when you borrow money, the lender sets the interest rate. They set the terms. They set the maximum loan to value. They set the frequency of payments, all that. That's what 99.9999% of people walking around think and believe. So I said, well, let's turn the tables on that baby right there. Instead of applying or asking for a mortgage, instead, put on your teacher hat and teach people, says private money teacher, and teach people, first of all, your own connections, people in your cell phone, social media, they're in the Rotary Club. Teach people what this world is all about and lead with a servant's heart and just expose people that you've already got a relationship with as to what this is all about without attaching any kind of a deal to it. You see, a big misconception that most real estate investors have is that in order to get funding, you've got to pitch yourself and you've got to pitch a deal. Nothing could be further from the truth. Listen, Erica, I've never pitched a deal in my life. So let's unpack this. Let's unpack this.
I'm digging this. I got notes.
So let's
Keep it coming.
So we separate the conversations. This is critical. We separate the conversations with people, potential private lenders. First conversation is teaching the program, the opportunity, teaching what private money is, teaching what self-directed IRAs are, teaching your program. What interest rate are you going to be offering? What kind of terms are you going to be offering on deals without having any kind of a deal attached to it? And then once they tell you they like the program, how much they have to invest, then you come back a week or two later with the good news phone call. So here's what I want to do, Erica. Let's pretend that you and I have known each other for some time and the trust is already there. The credibility is already there. We already like each other. We're friends. Maybe we know each other at church. Maybe we're
You have to pretend. I'm just kidding. I thought we were already there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we've had this relationship.
We're everywhere. We're in each other's lives. Got it.
That's right. And I've taught you about the opportunity and the interest rate I pay on deals and et cetera. And you like it. And let's say hypothetically that you had $150,000 in a 401k from a previous employer. And in my conversation with you, you didn't like how that was going. It's in the stock market. You're losing money. You don't like it. It's volatile and all that. So I have introduced you, hypothetically, to a self-directed IRA company that I recommend. And let's assume that you've moved your $150,000 over to that company. And now it's moved. And now you're waiting for me to put your money to work. Okay. So a week or two goes by. I'll call you up. Erica, I'm going to share with you and your audience right now the exact script that I would say to you when I've got a deal for you to fund. So I call you up. I call this the good news phone call. This is the good news phone call. And here's exactly how the good news phone call goes. I call you up, you say hello, we have a little chit chat, and then here's exactly what I say. I say, Erica, I have got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house under contract in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000. Now, the funding required for the deal is $150,000, which matches up to what you have. Closing is going to be next Tuesday, so I'll need for you to wire your funds to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Monday. I'm going to have my real estate attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. Now let's unpack why Erica is ecstatic about this phone call. 3 reasons. There's 3 reasons Erica wants to fund this deal without me even asking. Number 1, she moved her money, her $150,000, over to the self-directed IRA company at my recommendation. She already knows what the program is, regardless of the deal. She knows the maximum loan to value. She knows the interest rate. She knows all that. So, number 1, she trusted me. She moved that over, and she's waiting for this phone call. Number 2, Erica knows I'm not going to bring a deal for her to fund unless it matches the criteria of what I already taught her. For example, in the script, I called up Erica. I said, Erica, I can now put your money to work. I told her that I've got a house under contract with an after repaired value of $200,000. I said the funding requires $150,000. That matches the program. That is 75% of the after repaired value. So I'm not bringing a deal for her to fund that doesn't match the criteria. The third reason Erica is ecstatic about this phone call is because she's not making any money until I put her money to work. Right? So I'm ethically bound and obligated to put her money to work because I promised her I would. So let's unpack that. You see, I taught Erica the program. I taught her the opportunity. She loved it because she's only making right now 3% maybe in a CD in the bank, and that's coming down fast. Hey, just as of 2 weeks ago, the average savings account in the U.S. right now is less than 0.25%. And when I'm paying 8%, that's like phenomenal. So anyway, she loved the program. She moved the money over, and I called her up with the good news phone call. So you see, desperation's got a smell to it. If I had attempted to introduce or teach Erica the private lending program and opportunity, and I talked about a deal in the same initial conversation, I'm already sounding desperate without even trying to sound desperate, because now I'm talking about this deal for you to fund. So again, no chasing, no begging, no selling, no persuading. It's all about leading with a servant's heart, offering the opportunity. Carol Jo and I have gotten, I don't know how many thank you notes over the years from our private lenders that we changed their retirement years. I have 47 private lenders right now funding our deals. And you know what? Not one of them ever heard of private money until I put on my teacher hat. And I taught them about it, right?
You've said that more than once, haven't you? He's like, I got this down.
Hey, Erica, are you picking up what I'm laying down?
I am. I am. I can tell you, for me, real estate has never been something like, I'm really good at marketing it and helping, like I said, our conversation before, but when I'm trying to think about how I can actually, I feel like I'm talking somebody into giving me their money versus like showing them the value that they're getting from it. So are there some maybe phrases and this could be an approach, not just for real estate, but for any type of deal. For me, it sounds like you are teaching a sales skill, but more of it's a personal, value-driven relationship skill. I'll say it like that.
Absolutely.
Would you mind sharing some of that with us?
Absolutely. So let me share that in the form of a short story. Let me share the short story version of how I got my first $500,000 of that $2 million in the first 90 days. So Carol Jo and I go to church here in Morehead City. We're very involved in the church. acapella. In fact, we just finished writing a new gospel song yesterday. Anyway, so we go to church. Well, I learned about private money. I came back home, and I'm going to church on a Wednesday night at 7:30. Now, this is in February 2009. I had my program put together. I knew what I was going to teach, right? The interest rate and all that. So as I'm walking up to the building, I'm looking for a gentleman named Wayne. Now, Wayne and I had known each other for some time. So I walk in the foyer, there's Wayne. I walk up to Wayne and I said, Wayne, I've got something I'd like to talk with you about confidentially after Bible study tonight. Could we get together for a few minutes? He said, sure. So we finish Bible study and we get together and we go down to the nursery and we shut the door. I want to share right now exactly what I said to Wayne. I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town. And he did. He was the Zenith television dealer in Morehead City, North Carolina. Now, for those of y'all tuning into this show, if you don't know or remember who the Zenith television dealer was, that means you're just too young to remember life before Walmart came to town. The Zenith dealer would sell you the TV. He'd finance your TV. He'd come to your house and repair your TV. Long before you go buy one, a 70-incher for $2.99 and throw it in the trash when it breaks and go get another one. So Wayne knew he had installed a TV in everybody's house in Morehead City. So I said, Wayne, you know everybody, and he was well plugged into the Rotary Club and all that. So I said, Wayne, you know everybody in this town, and here's the magic phrase. I said, Wayne, I need your help. You see, I've now opened up my real estate investing business by referral only, and I'm now paying insane high rates of return to my investors. And here's what I need your help with. When you run across somebody that's complaining about losing money in the stock market and the volatility and getting paid hardly nothing in the local bank, would you refer them to me and I'll tell them about how this program works? Wayne looked at me and he says, well, now, Brother Jay, what you got going on there? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, what kind of insane high rate of return are you paying? And I said, Wayne, are you saying that you might be interested? He said, well, I might be interested. I said, why is that? He says, we're not earning hardly anything in the local bank and we're losing our shirt in the stock market. What kind of interest rate are you paying, Jay? And I said, well, that sort of depends on the deal. I said, what sounds high to you? He says, well, we're earning 3% in the local bank and a CD, and we're losing money in the stock market. He says, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6%. I said, Wayne, I can't pay you 5 or 6%, but I can pay you 8%. He said, put me down for $250,000. So I went to Wayne's home the next day on Thursday afternoon, and I sat down with him and his wife, and I put on my teacher hat, and I began to teach them about what the opportunity was and is. The interest rate I'm going to pay, which, by the way, is 8%, no points, been the same thing since 2009, and how they can get their money back in case they have an emergency come along, and what's the frequency of payments and the maximum loan to value, and how I protect them by giving them a deed of trust to back that note, and how I name them on the insurance policy as a mortgagee is another layer of protection. And after 2 cups of coffee, that $250,000 became $500,000 in that conversation with no deal attached to it. Now, why did that happen? I'll tell you why it happened. Number one, we had a relationship in place. The trust, the credibility, that was there. I mean, for goodness sakes, we're going to church together, right? So the trust was there. I mean, let me ask you a question. People ask me, Jay, who in the world do I start teaching? Who do I start sharing this with? Well, I want you to write down a list of people that you see regularly every week, and where do you see them? So this program does not work if you are a recluse. And this program does not work if you do not truly love other people and want to serve other people and make an impact and make a difference, right? So unpacking that was showing them an opportunity with no deal attached to it. You see, you should not have a fear of rejection. Here's the question. How can you have a fear of rejection if you're not asking anybody for anything and you're going to leave them in a better place whether they do business with you or not? So
How can you fear rejection?
how can you have a fear of rejection if you're not asking anybody for anything and you're only serving and teaching?
So, serving, teaching, believing in the value that you are doing or that you can offer ultimately that's going to bring, that you're going to bring something valuable to this relationship
Absolutely.
and this
Here's the
offer.
thing. I
So
can
it's the
tell you this.
confidence in believing what you're doing, along with the skill sets of like what humanity should be, but with the kindness, the desire to serve, and rather than selling, you are teaching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's leading with education, leading with education. And here's the thing. If they're not interested, which I can only think of one potential private lender that ended up not being interested at the time because they'd lost so much money in the stock market, they wanted to wait until the market came back before they sold part of that to, do business with me. It was just a timing issue. And I'll tell you, so that was my first 500,000. Let me tell you where I got the $969,000 of that 2 million. So very quickly after that, I put on a luncheon and I invited 20 people of mine and Carol Joy's associates to come to the luncheon. I had my CPA, my realtor, my real estate attorney at the luncheon, my credibility team that, I do business with. And I invited 20 people that from the community, and I invited the influencers. Oh, there's a writer downer. I want to teach people that can be a revolving door of referrals to me. I'm not interested in a one-on-one transaction. I'm interested in a relationship that can really refer people to me, right? And so it takes the same amount of time, 20 minutes, to teach your opportunity to one person as it does 20. We had lunch. I fed them lunch. I pulled out my little PowerPoint presentation and I put on my teacher hat and I taught them the program, just like I did at Wayne and his wife's home that afternoon. I taught them the program and I had a little interest form. Are you interested in learning more? That we handed out at the end of my little presentation. And that's where I got $969,000 in pledge of say, hey, I've got this money. Now, they didn't do it on the form. They expressed they wanted to learn more. So obviously I did one-on-one conversations with those people that were interested. And for goodness sakes, $500,000 came from just one person of that 969. You don't need 47 private lenders like I've got today. All you need is one or two just to get started, So that's how I leveraged time to raise a lot of money very, very quickly was through that, luncheon that I put on as well. So just those two short stories right there accounts for the $1.5 million of that first 2 million that I got in the first 90 days.
Yep. 100%. 100%. I love that. All right. So basically the lesson learned is ultimately love what you're doing, believe in what you're doing. If you believe in what you're doing and have confidence enough in it, then it will become pretty natural to teach rather than sell. And if you're doing it from a place of care and just ultimate humanity, I don't know the word that I'm looking for right now, that's that ADHD brain spinning again. I talk about that all the time, and that's really how you build those relationships and bring in the money.
Yes. Yeah. And here's another reason that you never have to feel like you're selling. The truth of the matter is there's so much more money available from potential private lenders than there are deals. I mean, I've got over $1.2 million right now sitting on the shelf from my private lenders waiting for me to put it to use because I haven't even had to teach anybody the private lending program for years because what's going to happen for you, like it happened for me, is you teach a few people and guess what? They can't keep their mouth shut. They're telling people about these high rates of return, safely and securely. So you see how the money's chasing you instead of you chasing the money.
100%. It makes sense. So for those who may not know, what is a credibility team?
So the credibility team are people that you are already working with that show people without even saying that you got a real business. So when you're investing in real estate, for goodness sakes, you got to have a real estate attorney, right? Don't be out there teaching people about private money and you ain't got no real estate attorney, for goodness sakes. So you got to have that relationship in place. If you're not a realtor, I'm not a realtor on purpose, but my realtors on my team are very, very important. I mean, they're not employed by me. I mean, they're just realtors that I have decided to do business with. Hey, the realtor here in my main county that I invest in, I've had the same realtor for 20 years, pulling on my comps and telling me what the house should be worth and the after repaired value. So my realtor, my bookkeeper or accountant or CPA, right? And so you invite those people to the luncheon and you introduce them. And so they see you got a real business, for goodness sakes. You've got these relationships in place.
That's impressive. I love the lessons that you're teaching while telling the stories. You're quite entertaining, Jay. It's kind of just fun to sit here and listen to you talk. So you're passionate about mentoring new investors. Where did your passion for mentoring others come? Is that like, were you always the type of person who liked to help other people, even from a younger age? You can see the passion. And I think what's interesting is it's not you trying to sell some like super program. You really are trying to mentor and help other people. Do you think that just came from being learned? Is that from your family? I know it's an interesting question, but I think we always need to dig deep in figuring out where did our best qualities come from, right?
Yes. Yeah,
What do you
no
think?
doubt. Yeah, no doubt it came from my environment and how I grew up and how the other people in my life changed my life. My granddaddy on my mother's side, he was my best friend up until he passed away when I was 33 years old, except for Carol Joy. Carol Joy came along when I was 26 years old. But my granddaddy was my biggest cheerleader. And, I watched my granddaddy. I mean, my granddaddy was a servant. I never heard my granddaddy say a cuss word in his life. I never saw my granddaddy lose his temper in his life. He was a farmer and he was just all the time in a very secretive, quiet way, not secretive, in a very quiet way, just going about doing things for other people all the time. So that was my programming. I mean, he was a farmer, lived out in the country, only 3 miles from where I grew up in the little teeny tiny town of Newport. And I spent pretty much from the time I could barely walk, I spent every Friday night with him and my grandmother out in the country. So, Granddaddy didn't teach me very, very many lessons verbally. He taught me many lessons by his example.
Oh, that's beautiful. Great job, Granddaddy. Wow. So you kind of learned also hard work, right? Ethics,
Now, I tell you
the
where I learned
value of
hard
hard
work.
work.
I tell you where I learned hard work. I learned hard work from my dad, who's 91 and a half years old, I was talking
Oh,
about.
yes.
Yeah, so what I mean by that is when I was 12 years old, the summers were gone.
Oh, no.
So Dad put me in his offices on the telephone. He had an acceptance corporation. And for those mobile homes he was selling in the summertime, along in between two other gentlemen, Al Jones and Harry Moore, I'll never forget them. I was on the phone calling up their applications. They wanted credit to buy a mobile home. So I was calling their employer, verifying their employment. I was calling their landlord, verifying their rent. And everybody back then had telephones, like this. And I was talking to the furniture store if they made their payments on time. This was before the credit scoring and Equifax and all that stuff. And so I was talking to these people when I was 12 years old, verified. So I just got wonderful communication skills built by spending time on the phone in those summers. And but yeah, when I said hard work, I don't mean working in tobacco, even though I did work in the tobacco field with my granddaddy prior to being 12 years old. But I mean, I guess I get my drive and my passion from my dad as well. I mean, why? Answer this question. Why in the world do you get up in the morning? Why you get up in the morning? And if your answer is about you and about making money, unfortunately, if you're like me, you're not going to get off square one. I tried that program. It doesn't work too good. And speaking of which, purpose and passion. Eric, I was riding down the road not the other day, a few months ago with a dear friend of mine. And we go to church together. And he says, Jay, I got a question for you. I said, what's that? He said, why are you doing everything you're doing traveling the nation and speaking and teaching real estate investors what you do and all this and that. And you still got your real estate investing business where you buy and sell houses. Why are you doing all that? You know, and I know you don't have to do that. And I said, well, that's an interesting question. I said, tell me a little bit more about what you're digging into. Why would you even ask that question? He said, well, how do you reconcile what the Bible says? I said, what's the Bible say? He said, how do you reconcile the Apostle Paul says to be content with whatever station of life you're in and doing all this work? I said, ask me that one more way, a different way. He says, Jay, when is enough enough? I said, oh, I thought I'd finally get to it if I ask it 3 times. I said, well, I have your answer. Enough is never enough when it's not about you.
Enough is never enough when it's not about you.
That's correct.
Pretty powerful. That's another note taker one right there. That's pretty powerful.
Yep. Enough is never enough.
So tell me about your podcast.
All my land's my podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm in my 8th year, almost 800 episodes.
Wow.
And the name of the podcast is Raising Private Money. I'm that. Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. It's on all your favorite podcast platforms. And we do 2 shows a week. It comes out on Monday mornings and Thursday mornings. And I'm all the time interviewing other real estate investors that have raised private money. So I interview them as to how they go about raising private money for single family houses, commercial, multifamily, self-storage, land. Doesn't matter. We talk about all different kinds of real estate asset classes and how they raise private money for their deals. So yeah, come join the party, Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. It's on all the podcast platforms. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook and everywhere.
That's a value right there. That's a value right there, though. If you're like bringing up all of this and like you're educating on your YouTube or on your podcast, like people need to take advantage of that because he knows what he's talking about. Has guests who know what they're talking about. Take advantage of this education because it's huge. Wow, impressive. You were going to say, by the way, you also have a book, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm just going to say I'm a ER, not an OR, Jay Conner, CON.
There you go. Yep, that's how it's spelled in here. We'll make sure we get it, and we'll make sure we put everything in the show notes too.
Sure.
But
yeah, so I do have a book. And Erica, may I give my book as a gift to your audience?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Awesome. So the name of my book is Where to Get the Money Now. Where to Get the Money Now. Subtitle, How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Ever Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. And it's $20 at Amazon, but don't spend $20 at Amazon. Let me give it to you. So you can pick up the book. I'll autograph it for you. I'll express mail it to you. You can pick up the book at jayconner.com/book. Again, that's jayconner.com/book. Just covers shipping. Hey, another gift. I'm going to include 2 tickets to the Private Money Conference live event. The Private Money Conference live event. I'm going to include 2 tickets with the book. And it's a $3,000 event, but I'm going to throw 2 tickets in there. We have another event coming up very, very soon. So there you go.
Say, when do you have information on the events on your sites too? I'm assuming you're a pretty smart cookie. I'm sure you. Good.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, so I always end up, and we've heard, dad, granddaddy, like these people are very influential in your life. But if we're looking, who is somebody, an entrepreneur or an innovator who has like inspired you in some pretty special ways? Maybe somebody other people should go check out. It's called Innovative Entrepreneurs anyway, so got to ask the hard questions.
I highly recommend Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield.
Ooh, okay.
He's the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series with Mark Victor Hansen. And Jack Canfield, Carol Joy and I have been to more than one of his live events, and he's amazing. And I highly recommend his book. And the book is called The Success Principles. The Success Principles. And each principle, it's a short little chapter, but very, very powerful. And there's 65 success principles.
Okay.
and it's just been recently updated. So I highly recommend his book.
Well, I'm definitely going to check that out. We'll make sure, guys, we put that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Jay. Your energy is just like, I feel like I can take on the world today. So I'm really grateful. Thank you for all of your information. Thank you for sharing your book with us, with the tickets. So we'll make sure we put all of that in there. And, I wish you the best, man. I can't wait for our friend to see that we had a conversation together today. That's going to be so much fun.
You got it. Thank you for having me, Erica. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a great episode. I hope you had as much fun as I did. If you want more of this goodness, make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications for future podcasts. And if you found value from this, please share it with others. You can visit our website at cwgdigital.com. This is Erica Bailey. I am your host, and I will see you next time.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.